Hi, and welcome back to the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce Member Connection. Yeah, and I know you say, yeah, you're excited. Yeah, I'm really excited today. This gentleman that I have with me is doing some amazing things. Maurice Gray, how are you?
I'm doing well, Eric, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You know, before we get started, let's let folks, who's Maurice Gray?
Well, prior to joining the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Program, I was a commercial loan officer,
Okay.
lender, credit analyst, kind of went through the banking track,
Okay.
became a lender, and I did that for about 15 years, lending to small businesses,
Okay.
helping them on the capital side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about that before we go into the Goldman Sachs,
Okay.
because,
Okay.
that's the one thing that I talk about all the time. For small businesses, small black businesses, money, financing is probably one of the biggest challenges.
Yes.
And being in that realm for 15 years, I'm sure you saw everything from
Yeah.
A to Z when it
Yes.
comes to the challenges. What
Yes.
would you say was one of the biggest challenges that our small businesses have?
Well, the credit process within banking, by its very nature, is a backwards looking process.
Okay.
So if you've been unable to gain significant traction to a level that's appealing to a bank, it's kind of a double-edged sword. You're not bankable,
Right.
but you feel like that capital could give you an injection.
Right.
I think part of it too is kind of reassessing our notions about debt.
Okay.
Okay, personal debt versus business debt. Growing up, you always hear, get rid of the debt, pay off your debt. But understanding that debt within a business gives you opportunities.
Okay.
Okay, so it's a bit, and sometimes requires a bit of a mind shift.
Okay.
That you can use debt in a responsible way to help you scale a business.
Right.
Okay, like with a line of credit.
Okay.
So you have access to those funds and you're not paying on those funds unless you use them.
Right.
Okay, so, but as I said, typically what happens is, because the credit process is backwards looking, people can find themselves in a precarious situation of needing that money to be able to demonstrate the growth that the bank would like to see.
Right.
From a revenue standpoint.
I always looked at it, obviously I understand it, but obviously those who have the best credit or pay their debts,
Yeah.
they got the higher score.
Yeah.
Or they get the lower interest
that's
rate.
right.
But those folks who have a bad credit score, they get the highest interest rate, but they need the lower interest
They need the lower interest, right? It is kind of an inverted benefit system,
Yeah.
those people who would most need it. It's the nature of the system.
Right.
But I kind of segueing into what I do now.
Right.
Kind of the unfortunate
Let's
side.
talk about
Yeah.
let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Goldman Sachs, 10,000 small business. You've been doing this. A lot of companies started reaching out to small business community, small black business community after the pandemic.
Right.
But Goldman Sachs has been around for how many years now?
About 14
10,000
years.
10,000 small business.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. 10,000 small businesses really came to life about 14 years ago.
Okay.
On the heels of the 2008 recession.
Okay.
Okay, and Goldman Sachs realizing that, really contrary to what we think about businesses, typically when people think about businesses, we're thinking about multinationals, Amazon, Walmart comes to mind. But the vast majority of businesses in this country are very small, closely held enterprises.
Correct.
So
One or two employees,
One or
the
two
owner
employees.
and the
Right.
wife or a son.
Right.
Or a couple employees at the most.
Right. So I think Goldman Sachs realized that if you really want to impact, you really want to help the country out, you can do a lot of good by helping these small enterprises that make up the bulk of American businesses. So about 14 years ago, Goldman Sachs committed $500 million in an effort to.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
14 years ago.
14 years ago, right. And since that time, they've injected additional money on the heels of COVID.
Right.
Okay, another 250.
But before you go there,
Yeah.
how did you segue from, as you said, you were in banking, the loan.
right, yeah.
How did you find yourself moving over to Goldman Sachs?
Well, needless to say, I was doing banking for a while. I wanted to do something different. Okay. Unfortunately, when you're in the banking, and the reality of it is, it's very sales driven.
Right.
Okay, even contrary to what people say, banker's hours, and they think most people are sitting in the branch waiting on business to walk in. As you can appreciate, most banks offer comparable services and products.
Right.
So it is very much about individual business,
Very competitive.
very competitive. So I was looking for a bit of a change after doing that for about 15 years across different organizations, and certainly felt that the financial background that I had and consultating with businesses over the years, I wanted to move or segue into something where I could leverage those skills. Unfortunately, as a banker, you have the initial conversation with a prospective client, and then you go through the credit process, and then you're kind of at the mercy of the credit department. So if they say, no, this is a relationship we can do or we can't do. And then I'm not in a position to really counsel you on, here are some things you can do to look
That's
better.
not what you're there for.
That's not what bankers are typically there for. So
That's what chambers are there for.
That's
right. Go ahead.
right. So this offered a great opportunity, like I said, to leverage those skills that I developed, without having to do a total makeover to be attractive in the market, and really be able to help people at a deeper level of understanding the inner workings of their business and how they could straighten some various things out within their business and go to another level of growth.
Okay. And then you find yourself in this Goldman Sachs 10,000 small businesses.
Yeah.
You're the director.
Yes.
And what is your day-to-day like? Because I want to get into how you work with, but your day-to-day.
Yes. So I've actually held a number of different roles over the past 10 years within the Goldman Sachs program. Currently, as the executive director, I'm sure as you appreciate running the chamber, you're responsible for all things.
Right.
Certainly with the support of a team.
Right.
To execute those things. But my day-to-day entails communication with our national partners.
Okay.
So in addition to Goldman Sachs, we have Babson College, who created the curriculum for our learning program.
Okay.
And then we have another organization, ICIC, which is the Initiative for Competitive Inner Cities, out of Boston as well, started by Dr. Michael Porter of the Harvard Business School. And they are a research organization that really studies urban economies and the businesses within those urban areas and the factors that give rise to them being successful. And within our program structure, they oversee the admissions criteria and the screening of applicants.
Okay.
So my role is interfacing with them, identifying new initiatives that may be coming from the national partners, making sure that we're aligned with curriculum delivery, and then overseeing the execution of the program here at Miami-Dade College in terms of the classroom delivery of that curriculum.
Okay. There's a lot of moving parts.
A lot of moving parts.
Well, I know when I've been running the chamber now 9 years, and that's when we were introduced to you. And we've had a number of chamber members that have participated in your program. Yeah. And before we get into that, we're going to take a little break, and we're going to run some commercials. And we just want to thank our supporters, our sponsors of the Miami-Dade Chamber Member Connection. But we'll be right back.
This is garbage, and you probably think all of it just goes to waste. But in Miami-Dade, we convert most of what you throw away into energy. In our waste-to-energy facility, we can turn about 90% of your everyday garbage into reusable fuel.
Levels look good.
That creates clean electricity for our community. Enough energy to power 35,000 homes. Pretty illuminating, huh? In Miami-Dade, nothing goes to waste.
Hey, thank you for staying with us. This is the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce Member Connection. I'm here with Maurice Gray, the director of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program that's at Miami-Dade College North Campus. Excuse me, the downtown, the Wolfson campus.
Yes.
So Maurice, I mean, before we took the break, you were talking about, how you engage every day as a director. Yeah. And then I mentioned the fact that we've had several members of the chamber that have participated in the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program. What does that mean to participate? How do you, and I know, you have a period of time that people actually apply.
Yes.
Everyone that applies does not get in.
Right.
You have some criteria
Yes.
that businesses have to meet, some thresholds that they have to meet. I know you've adjusted that from time to time.
Yes.
So let's walk us through the whole process, the very beginning. I'm a small business.
Yes.
I heard about the Goldman Sachs through the chamber.
Okay.
What is that?
Okay. So it is, as you said, a process. So there is a screening process. The great part is by virtue of the money that Goldman Sachs, the capital that they put into this program, there's no cost to participate.
Okay.
Okay. So
There we go. No cost to participate.
no cost to participate. That's usually a nugget of information we
Right.
get to at the end, but very, very important. So the process is submitting an application, and the criteria to be accepted into the program now or considered for the program are $75,000 in revenues, total sales for your last year, 2 employees, including the owner, and 2 years in business.
Okay.
Okay, and the individual should be an owner or a co-owner, but we do have some mechanisms to accept individuals who are not shareholders of an organization if they demonstrate they are an integral part of the decision.
The manager. Or,
Right. So
I didn't know that part.
Yes, and we commonly come across that with spouses who may not be on record.
Okay.
They work closely in the business, intergenerational businesses, multi-generational
Okay.
businesses. And then there are cases where a business owner basically has moved away from the day-to-day operation and turned that over to a general manager or something like that.
Okay.
So anyone that's close to those criteria, we urge them to apply, okay? Because we seek to mitigate what may appear to be a hurdle. If someone hasn't quite reached $75,000, we'll see how close they are. And our goal is to try to get as many people in the program as we can.
Okay.
Okay. So after someone submits an application, they just respond to a few questions where they are relative to those criteria. And then for people who meet or exceed those criteria, we move them into a secondary phase. And we'll say, okay, we need some validation of the revenues you earned last year. And we'll take Uncle Sam's word on what you did. So we'll need a tax return.
Okay.
And then
So you can't come in there within just some papers that you piled up through the year.
Right. We will ask for financial statements, the year-end statements, depending on because typically at the beginning of the year, people haven't completed their tax returns for the most recently ended year. So we'll have to basically reach back to the prior year for that tax return. And then we'll ask them to submit some financial statements to see how they've done in the current period. After that process, those individuals who meet that threshold of submitting documents will seek them for an interview, okay, and have a conversation with them about where they're trying to go with their business, how their business has evolved over time. So really an opportunity to uncover if that particular applicant is ready for us to help them grow. Okay.
To help them grow.
To help them grow. That's what we want to do. And I'm sure as you can appreciate, businesses present themselves at all different levels. And so the most important thing for us, and that's why we don't do startups, is because we believe that, like most educational processes, if you've had some familiarity with cash flow problems, you're probably a little more attentive when we're talking about cash flow.
Right.
And you have a better understanding of what that means. Okay. So after that interview process, we will then seat between typically 25 to 40 individuals.
Okay.
With 30 being about the average number of group of business owners that we'll have in each of our cohorts, as we call it. And to date, with approximately 30 business owners at a time, we've graduated over 750 businesses in really the Tri-County area since our inception in 2013.
Okay. And this cohort, what is the length of time that you enter the cohort and you exit the cohort?
Right. So on average, our process lasts 3 months.
Okay. And what does that entail, this 3-month period?
That 3-month period in general will be pretty much one class for a full day, 1 day per week.
Okay.
Okay, or throughout the tenure of that 13 to 15 weeks is usually how long the program lasts, which we do 3 times per year. So kind of the day in the life of a business owner in our program is they will come to Miami-Dade Wolfson campus, usually arrive around 8 o'clock. We provide breakfast.
Okay.
I don't prepare the breakfast. We provide breakfast, and then at 8:30 we start our curriculum. And so we'll, whatever subject matter we're dealing with that day, and we have 9 sessions like that where we will cover various subject matters from human resources, ideation, thinking more broadly about what your business can be, customer, the marketing and selling, operations, accessing capital. So really what we're trying to do is look across your business, get you very early on to think about some of the possibilities for growing your business, either new customer targeting or new product introductions. And then throughout the rest of the program, looking at how the rest of your business lines up with that opportunity.
Okay.
So if you say, I want to start selling to these types of customers, we evaluate, well, do you have the internal capabilities to do that? Or will you need to hire someone with that skill set?
Okay.
And how do you reach that target market? Do they live on Facebook? Do they respond to, public ads of some type? Are they a part of a niche group that you want to try to attract? And so those are the 9 or so modules that we have. And so, as I said, those individuals will come on a daily basis. They'll spend the entire day with us.
Okay.
Okay, from 8:30 to 5:30. And we'll break for lunch. We provide lunch, get them right back. So they're really captive. There's
Right.
no need to leave.
No need to
once
worry
you're
about
there.
them going out for lunch and
Right.
whether they're coming back or not.
And also being cognizant that these are business owners and they have enterprises to run.
Right.
We have frequent breaks.
Okay.
So
You can check in back at the office
check
or
in back
the
at the
storefront
office
or whatever.
Right. And because this is a learning program, we want everyone to be attentive and present while they're in the classroom and not putting out fires back at the office.
Right. Sitting there on their phone.
That's right.
While you're in class.
That's right. And one of the kind of unpublished benefits of this is, from a psychological standpoint, for many of our business owners, this is the first time that they've really been tasked with stepping away from their businesses.
Right.
Okay, and that's usually the first objection that I hear when I tell people about the program structures.
The fact that you got to dedicate that time.
You have to dedicate that time.
Let me ask you, we're running out of time.
Oh, okay.
It's a lot of information
Yes,
that
yes,
you're
yes.
unpacking.
Yeah.
I know you said 75,000 pretty much was the opening threshold.
Yes.
Is there a max of revenue that a business can be making?
There's not a max. We have had businesses in this program with revenues in excess of $10 million.
Okay.
And the beauty of that, this program is not just for startups.
Okay.
It's not prescriptive in terms of pointing businesses in a specific direction. We're really opening the can and saying, Eric, let's look at your own business.
Right.
What ideas do you have and how can we help you?
Well, the good thing about that, like I said, unfortunately, we're running out of time,
Okay.
but you have a business that may be, like you said, 5 to 10 million in revenue, and you have a business that's doing 75, so you're bringing them in together,
Yes.
and they can actually exchange information.
That's right. And that's another very interesting part, peer learning.
Yeah. So how can someone get in touch with you?
Well, the easiest way to find our program is if you go to the Miami-Dade College website and you type in the number 10,000 in the search field, our program information will come up. And each of the pages on our website will have an apply button. And you can also get additional information about the content of the curriculum.
Okay. Well, Maurice, like when we started, I said, hey, I wanted you to talk and tell us about it. You've definitely given us a lot of information. If you want to know more about the Chamber, go to m-dcc.org or call the Chamber at 305-751-8648. This has been the Miami-Dade Chamber Member Connection. Thank you for joining us.